Genesis chapter 20. We're approaching a portion of Genesis that I've been looking forward to as long as we've been studying through Genesis. The next several chapters really are some neat portions of Scripture. Genesis chapter 20 is kind of a weird chapter, and it's one of those chapters you wonder, why on earth is that in there? Let's read the chapter. Chapter 20, and Abraham journeyed from there toward the south country, and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, behold, you are a dead man. For the woman which you've taken, she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you slay also a righteous nation? Said he not unto me, she is my sister, and she herself, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. And God said unto him in a dream, yes, I know that you did this in the integrity of your heart, for I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore suffered I thee to not touch her. Now therefore restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you. And you shall live, and if you restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, you and all that are thine. Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said, what have thou done unto us, and what have I offended you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what saw you that you have done this thing? And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet indeed she is my sister, she is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it came to pass, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is the kindness which you shall show unto me at every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants, and gave them unto Abraham, and restored him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before you, dwell where it pleases you. And unto Sarah he said, behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Behold, he is to thee a covering of the eyes unto all that are with thee, and with all other. So she was reproved. So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children. For the Lord had fast closed up all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. We've read a story like this before. Anybody remember?
Yep.
Where was that at?
Egypt.
In Egypt. Years ago, I was studying through Genesis, and you read, Abraham goes to Egypt in Genesis chapter 12, and he, tells Pharaoh that Sarah's his sister. Right. And Pharaoh tries to take Sarah, and God plagues Pharaoh, and so he sends Abraham and Sarah out, gives them a lot of gifts. Then you get to chapter 20, and he's going through Gerar, and he pretty much does the same thing with the king of Gerar, this guy named Abimelech. And if you go on down to chapter 26, Isaac does the same thing. And, why? I mean, there must be some significance to this.
But there's a big difference in Egypt and here.
Mm-hmm.
She was a young person in Egypt. She's 90 years old.
She's 90 years old
Yeah,
now.
that's what I was thinking.
I mean,
She must still look pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
how could she?
Well, let's think on that for a few minutes. First of all, where was Abraham before he came to Gerar?
looking off the mountain at
Yeah,
Sodom and
Sodom.
Gomorrah.
He was in the mountain in the presence of God. That's
Mm.
where he's been for a long time. He's been in the presence of God. But now he's leaving.
Fear
Maybe,
of the unknown.
maybe we don't know why he left. It doesn't say, but he was in the presence of God on the mountain. And then it said he journeyed from there south.
Doesn't
Went
say
down.
doesn't say God sent him. He just journeyed.
What happens when you go down? It's not as good as going up, right? He went down. He went south. He left the presence of God, the mountain. He left the mountaintop and went down. And he came to Gerar. Now, why did he leave the presence of God? Why did he leave this mountaintop? Well, we really don't know. We can read into the story a little bit. Maybe there wasn't. I mean, he looked all around, and all the cities around about him were
Curiosity.
burned up. There really wasn't much left going on in that area. He said, "Well, let's move on." Maybe he was scared. I don't. He saw all this stuff happening, the fire and the brimstone coming down. We don't know why he left, but he did. So he comes to this place called Gerar. Now notice, this place is between Kadesh and Shur. It's in the land of Canaan. So he's still in the promised land, as opposed to the story where he goes to Egypt.
Right.
He's still in the promised land, but he's going down in this, if I remember correctly, this is a Philistine country, so Abimelech would have been a Philistine. And
But he knew of God. He knew who God
He did.
was.
but now when Abraham got here, apparently he thought that the fear of God wasn't in this place.
He had
Remember, he
to.
said he told the king. He said, I thought the fear of God wasn't in this place.
So it had to gave the a resemblance that God wasn't in it when he approached it and the way it looked and the way people were doing.
Whenever anybody came through and passed by Abraham's house, what did he do?
Yeah,
He
he went
went
out
out
to
and
greet
asked
them and
Went out and greeted him. Said, "Hey, let's
come into my house.
come into my house." What did Lot do when the angels came through?
Yeah.
He greeted them. Said, "Hey, Whereas when Abraham and Sarah came to this place, what happened?
They didn't greet him.
They didn't greet him. Said, "Hey, we want that woman right here."
Right.
So that may be the reason he thought the fear of God wasn't it. They weren't
Right.
accustomed, hospitable and
Right.
in their actions. So going back to what Mr. Jeanette said, this woman is 90 years old now. Why would Abraham worry that this 90-year-old wife of his would be attractive to these people in Gerar?
I can't even imagine that.
Had to be something about her that stood out.
Well, and
Yeah,
this
he hasn't had his son.
this
yet
is
either.
this is reading into it just a little bit, but
Right.
if you'll look back to chapter 17.
So what? Do you think maybe he thought the child would come from someone beside him?
No, I'm trying to find the verse.
Verse 6.
Maybe it's chapter 18. Hang on just a sec. Yeah, here we go. 18 verse 10.